As Rangers fans, we know that a goaltender is the backbone of a hockey team. At Abundant Wealth Management, we are your financial backbone, offering financial planning, wealth management, tax planning, and estate planning services. To schedule your free consultation, head to www.abundant-wealth.com. That's www.abundant-wealth.com. Abundant Wealth Management. Live, plan, triumph.
You're listening to Rangers Radio, your home for end-to-end coverage of the New York Rangers. With your hosts, Brendan Azoff, Zach Domino, and Steve Pappas. Blue Shirts fans, the puck drops now.
Everybody, welcome to Rangers Radio. And if you thought 10 goals was bad, we got 8 hung up on us at MSG the other night. It's been a fun couple of days to be a Rangers fan. I think we're all on the sell mode, talking about draft picks, talking about the tankathon. I've seen that about 4,000 times now on my X feed. But we also have a special guest joining us this evening, 5:30 start time. Jonny Lazarus is going to hop on, talk about some stuff that I'm sure he's tired of talking about, but we're going to ask him anyway. How you doing, boys?
Good. Another great game.
I've been better. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about when you're saying we're all having a good time here. I think this is awful. I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen a 4-game stretch like this. Maybe one other time in my life have I seen a 4-game stretch like this, but boy, are we in it.
I've never had so much fun as a fan of my team. Exactly what I want to happen is happening. I'm looking at the standings. A few weeks ago, we were like in the middle, and we were complaining how we wanted to get to the bottom. Then we were like 10 away from the bottom. Now we're the worst team in the East, standings-wise, not just feelings-wise, which we always were, but officially standings-wise. And we need a few more losses to catch those pesky teams in the West that are worse than us right now. But this is what we need, because Chris Drury, if we were losing close, quote-unquote, close games on the scoreboard, was going to do whatever he could to not sell off everyone and potentially buy that. We need some ass kickings to get this team where we need to go. And we know where this team needs to go is literally, I've been seeing it on Twitter, anyone who's over 23 or 24, we're open for business at this point.
It's an open exchange right now, but let's bring Jonny on. That way we could talk some Rangers puck with him, see exactly what's going on. Jonny, how's everything doing?
Yeah, it's been better. I'm definitely not as bad as Steven, though. Holy hell, can that guy rant on Twitter? Huh?
It's tough. And
you said I made a conscious decision yesterday to stay off of Twitter and go watch an actual hockey team in the Buffalo Sabres. If you believe it or not, that we're at that state of the franchise right now.
Yeah, the reason we're happy you're hopping on the show right now at the beginning is because he texted in our group chat last night that he was going to go on about a 5 to 7 minute tangent to start this. So now he can't do that until at least a little later on in the episode.
I'll save myself from that one, but I might catch it. I watch some of the clips that I see online, but there is nobody less happy though than Stephen Pappas. I'll tell you that much.
No.
you could that's like you could say that about any time.
Every intermission in the press box, I check Twitter and I'm like, yep, he's going off again.
Captain, what did he say? Captain Brightside? Yeah, there you go. Captain Brightside.
Mr.
But that's our group chat. Steven, like literally every intermission, if it's not on Twitter, it's in our group chat. He's saying some stat from some year that this is the worst Rangers team since this year, since that year. We've given up so many goals since this amount. He finds these things, and this team's giving him more and more things to find each and every game.
Mm-hmm. So I want to kick things off, Jonny, if you don't mind, with kind of what you put out there. I saw it this morning on X, your presser with Sullivan. You asked him a couple of more pointed questions, I guess, more pointed than we're used to seeing, at least in the media. And you started it off asking for a comparison from last year's team, which obviously coach speak, he's going to step away from. And then you asked to see a little bit more anger. And I just wanted to kind of, pry a little bit deeper. What did you notice, especially last night in the arena, that kind of led you to asking that?
Well, the question about last year was, Mike Sullivan's a guy who's coached against the Rangers for a decade, but he coached again this exact team closely, almost, not the exact roster, but pretty close to to this team last year. So I was wondering, as a coach, like the weaknesses he was listing out. He said they're disconnected as a group of five. Right now it's just a lack of confidence and all these things that he was listing off. And I said, did you see that coaching against them last year? Does it feel like the same thing? Because, we're all watching the same game, right? It's starting to feel a little bit like last year where, guys are just kind of checked out. Like that's what it feels like. So I respect the way he answered it. He wasn't here last year, like he said. It wasn't his team. We moved past it. But then, with talking to some of the guys, I talked to Will Borgen last night, Mika after the Seattle game, and, they've said the word fragile. They've said we lack confidence, and you can feel just this, I don't even know the right word for it, but feeling sorry for themselves a little bit at this point. But again, like they don't have the answers. And when you don't have the answers, it's like, it's hard to really explain because I've been in those shoes before. Like my senior year in college, we won 5 games. And I went into every game basically knowing it wasn't going to go well and knowing we were going to lose. And no guy is ever going to come out and say that. But we've watched Ranger teams that when you go into a game, you think they're going to win. You genuinely think they're going to win. I mean, going back to 21-22, I think even if they were down 2 goals, it's like, okay, they're going to get a power play and they're coming back and they're winning this game. But this year, it's like when, and last year too, when one thing goes wrong, it's like oh shit, here we go again, and that is human nature. That is not having the help of Adam Fox and Igor Shesterkin right now and not having the belief in 2 of the best players on your team and in the league. And there should be more anger, like it's frustration. It's, just negative thoughts creeping in. But like at certain points, you have to channel those feelings and get pissed off and get angry. And I had a hard time, like, I guess, coming up with words in that presser. It's a high pressure situation when you're having a one-on-one with a coach in a room like that. But I said, like, I'm not telling you or telling guys to drop the gloves and fight, but at least crash the net and cause some chaos. Like other teams go at Igor, go at Quick. They're crashing the blue paint. They're making the Rangers stand up for their goalies. How many guys are really crashing the opponent's blue paint and making the other team say, fuck you? Like they're not really physically imposing their opponents. And I guess that's kind of what I was getting at. Because when things are going bad, it's so easy to just like shrug your shoulders and be like, oh shit. And JT, to Sullivan's point, JT, the first shift of that second period, he came out, he probably threw 5 or 6 hits. He did. But no one else really followed suit. Right. And the captain's trying to set the example, but no one was following it last night. So I don't know. It's just, it's tough because they know the odds are stacked against them right now without Fox and Shesterkin, but they're also playing like they know the odds are stacked against them.
I mean, maybe you can answer this question. You said 5 wins your senior year. If you had a dash 17 in a 4-game stretch.
Oh, I thought it was 19. It was 17?
Yeah, 17 in a 4-game stretch. Like when you show up, I mean, and we've seen it a lot to start games, like they're down in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's like, I mean, we've talked about, you can use the term mentally soft or, or fragile or whatever. How do you feel like that changes? Like, how do you fix being mentally soft?
You know what? That's a great question for a mental coach. I've had them. I've had sports psychiatrists, like they do really help. I really do think though it's a contagious feeling. It's not like it's one guy who's going to all of a sudden change this thing, right? You need some, and we thought it'd be the Winter Classic, but they had Fox and Shesterkin. Like, when you remove those 2 from the equation, now this team needs to just see one positive result. And then maybe the belief comes back, but it's not going to be the captain that sets the tone. It's going to be 20 guys that feel it, because, there are guys in that room who just don't have confidence at all right now, and I think back to a few games ago, I'm forgetting which one it was. I think they might've lost 3-1. Maybe it was the Buffalo game. Sorry, they all kind of blend together, but I spoke to Sam Carrick and, asked him the same question, kind of like, do you need guys to be angry? Or you've been angry, you've shown it. And he like blamed himself for the lack of scoring because he only had one goal, to that point. But it's your fourth line center making $1 million, and the fact that he's putting pressure on himself to score, that's a bad sign, because what fourth liners really put pressure on themselves to score goals? And the sad thing about it too is like Mika and Panarin were scoring, like they're producing, Trocheck even was producing. So it's just a weird vibe in there. And, like they've all said, they don't have the answer, which tells you the GM has to go out and find the answer. And maybe if the GM doesn't have the answer, then you got to go find the GM that has the answer. And that's kind of where we're at right now. Because Sullivan, he's done a good enough job to at least make them quote unquote competitive. They're in these games besides last night. They're, for the most part, they're in these games. They're not getting like, it's been a rough week. They lost 10-2, but for the majority of the season, we have to be honest. Like, they haven't really gotten blown out. Sure, they've gotten a little outplayed, but not like drastically. They're in these games and can win these games, but they're not able to do it.
And like, again, also not a mental coach.
Yeah.
Just thinking about like human nature.
Yeah.
Brendan, we used to talk about this at the beginning. Like, moral victories were great. The Rangers were still losing at the beginning of the season, but quote unquote, all the advanced analytics were saying they were in games. They eventually had to start winning, or else you always said this is what was going to happen. And then this happened. It's nice to, when you're early in the season, everyone's jumbled in the standings, and, you can kind of get away with moral wins because it's a small sample size. If you play that way over 82 games, they say you'll get some wins, but you do have to eventually win. Now it's just snowball, where this team is out there, and no matter what they do, they play a good game, they lose in overtime. They play a bad game, they lose 10-2. It's gotten to the point at this point where you can just see it, where they feel no matter what they do, it's going to be tough for them to win these games. And the makeup of this team if it was made up of a bunch of young top prospects that were building for something 2 or 3 or 4 years down the line, I feel like those guys would still go into each and every night with something to play with. With the makeup of these teams, this team being a lot of veterans that have had success in individual seasons before, this is tough on them. And it's showing that it's tough on them, and they don't even know what to do, and they don't have the answers. And I hope we don't get to a point that it seems like we're already getting to at this point, where if this 5-game losing streak becomes 7, becomes 8, becomes 9, some of these guys become even more checked out than they look, 1 or 2 minutes into a game when they give up an early goal with that, like Jonny said, almost woe is me mentality, because they've tried everything, bunch of different roster moves, a bunch of different line changes. And it seems like no matter what they put on the ice, no matter who they play, where they play, it ends up with them getting no points at the end of the day.
Jonny, I got to ask you, if we're going to look down the line and, continue to see, who knows when Shesterkin comes back, who knows when Fox comes back, and we've sort of seen how this team has sort of reacted to that. Let's just assume the Rangers are a bottom 5 team come the draft lottery and they have a pick in the top 7. Where are you going? Where's your first thought? If, obviously 1 is different than 7, but, where do you think they address come the draft next year?
What kind of player?
What kind of player?
I think about obviously guys in the system. I don't think they have really any young centers that are NHL ready or close. A guy I would love for the Rangers to get that I'm super high on is Tynan Lawrence, but I'm biased because I watched him play in the USHL, and obviously now he's at BU. But they need young centers. Like, you go down the list right now. Noah Lob is the only one who's under 30. So, that's obviously an issue, but that's the player I think they should be going for. So, you can look at the blue line and say they need to add to the blue line too, but you got guys like EJ Emery, Drew Fortescue, who are in the system, who are probably still, a couple years away. Fortescue, I think, is somewhat close just from watching him, but he could use some AHL time. Never hurts. But yeah, I think getting a young center is probably the biggest need.
Then can you talk about Tynan Lawrence? He seems like
I love that kid. I've gotten to interview him a couple times now. I actually just spoke to him earlier today, honestly, so it's a little fresh in my mind. But that interview probably won't drop till like next week. But he's so confident. He's so fast. Like, it's funny. I did the Clark Cup final last year for Waterloo and Muskegon, and I actually said, like, watching this game, if I were to compare it to like any NHL game that I've watched, like Lawrence looks like McDavid out there. Like just keeping it in a vacuum of the USHL, in perspective. I'm not saying he's the next McDavid, but watching the game, he stands out like McDavid stands out in the NHL. Like you watch a USHL game, Tynan Lawrence is playing it, you're like, okay, number 11 just looks different than everybody else. The way he carries the puck, and he's one of those guys who, and these guys are rare, who's almost faster when he has the puck on his stick than he is without it. Like those guys are few and far between, but he's one of them. He's strong. He can shoot. His hockey IQ is off the charts. Like his foot speed is incredible. He's quick in corners. I mean, he's just got it all. Obviously with time, he needs to get a little bit stronger. And I think his speed is already pretty remarkable, but he'll get faster. But yeah, I'm just a big fan of his, and the personality goes with it too.
Yeah. See, I have a hard time going to the draft when there's still a deadline right in front of me. Right?
Yeah.
I like to play around a little bit with some of the scenarios, and you kind of alluded to it, right? There's a reason that Gretzky said it's 90% mental hockey, because it is. When you start to have that trickle down effect where nothing seems to be going right, it's very hard to overcome that as a team. You almost need that one bounce in one game, which there's been a couple of times over the last month or two where they had a game where they did get that bounce, and you're like, could this be that turning point where they just start to be a little bit more consistent? But obviously that has not happened. And, you kind of talked about it when you mentioned if Drury's not the right guy to find that change and know what needs to happen, to maybe there needs to be a new GM. So two-parter, how hot do you think Chris Drury's seat actually is? Because it's very funny. We're in this conversation right now, 5 games after Dolan went on WFAN and kind of said he was safe. But also, what would you address at the deadline? And what by address, I mean, who do you think on this roster is really up for grabs and up for sale, as opposed to what fans are just kind of throwing out there online?
I think there's going to be a lot of interest in a guy like Vinny Trocheck, just because, again, I'm not saying they're looking to trade him, but I think other teams are going to have interest in him. Just because, again, like Vinny Trocheck is the perfect guy to have on like a third line center on a cup team. Like he just is. He's got, a contract that's movable too, 5.2, I think or 5.25 or something like that. And he's got a 12 team no trade. It's not like he's got a no move. So, Vinny's just the most realistic one that I think you can move. If I had to, I'm not going to sit here and like take guesses of what teams are going to go for him. I mean, Rangers Wire just put it in there though. Like that's who I think also, with the USA Hockey familiarity and, Billy Guerin and Chris Drury's relationship and whatnot. Even Charlie Stramel would be like a good prospect to get back for the Rangers if that were the trade. But I think Vinny's just the most realistic one. And then if you move on from Vinny, like who knows what happens? Like maybe there are some guys like I genuinely believe, I haven't heard anything or whatever, but I think there's a conversation to happen with Adam Fox this summer where maybe he would even just go to them and be like, you know what? I don't want to waste my prime years. Like, he has 4 years left, I think, on his deal. Yep. And if it doesn't look like it's getting brighter here, like, Adam Fox will one day be 31 and, looking for a new contract. And I don't know if a lot of GMs out there will think that he's like the missing piece for the cup team at 30. You know what I mean? It's just like guys want to win. And it's a hard question to really answer just because you have to keep in mind the reality of the situation and what other teams are going to look to the Rangers and want to grab those guys, right? Like it's a challenge. It's a challenge. But to answer your question, Brendan, to me, it's like Vinny Trocheck is the most movable piece right now.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's funny that you mentioned Fox because a couple of weeks back, I said, it's not like I'm sitting here wanting to trade Fox. I think the people that do are a little bit crazy. But there comes a point in time where as a GM, you have to look at your team, go, how competitive are we really? And what's the asset that could genuinely bring back the most in return? And Adam Fox is up there. And like you said, he's in his prime. He's still an extremely valuable defenseman. If he's not top 5, he's top 10 in the league. I think it's crazy he was left off USA. And you sit here and go, well, if he's willing to waive his no movement clause, that's a guy that can definitely restart and jumpstart a team. So I would hate to see it. I got a picture of him up there. I love the guy and I love the player, but that's the type of pieces when you're actually in a rebuild, you have to look at moving.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And again, like nobody, I mean, I think don't want to see that.
Yeah.
But you also, not that he would get the return that Quinn Hughes just got, but like look at the risk that Billy Guerin took on Quinn Hughes, a guy with no term,
no contract,
and Fox still has term. Like, so if you're going for him, you're keeping him for 3 years, you know. Which again, maybe you do get a just as good as a return as Quinn got in that sense. But yeah, dude, it's I would never want to be the GM of a fucking hockey team. I'll tell you that much.
It's a lot of fun to play.
I know a lot of people love it. I am not one of the, like, the trade deadline is my least favorite time of year. Like I hate all the mocks. I hate all the trade, but like it's so hard to actually make these things work, and everyone makes it seem like it's so damn easy on Puckpedia, you know.
Well, it's a lot easier when you don't have to live with the repercussions.
It is. Everybody just
yeah.
You just make
and you can automatically accept the trade, and nobody's got to tell you look stupid. I'm going to ask you one more draft question, though.
I want to say one thing though, quick, Steven, if I can. Like, I was the kid growing up playing NHL where I would turn the salary cap off. Like, I wanted nothing to do. Like, I just wanted to go get my guys, and I traded for. You know, who was I? I was trading for Ilya Kovalchuk in every video game. Like, I loved Kovalchuk. He was my guy in the NHL video games. And I just turned $10 million. Who cares?
That fits.
Yeah.
Those GM modes scare the shit out of me. I'd rather just do be a pro and just focus on the one guy. I don't want to deal with an entire team. But going back, I guess now it's sort of deadline draft question. And if you had to sit here, Rangers right now have two first round draft picks.
Yeah.
If we set the line at 2.5, are you taking over or under for draft day? The Rangers will have over or under 2.5 first round picks.
That's a good question. I've like never been asked that before.
I'm surprised you came.
Yeah, I'm a little stumped. I would say it is under 2.5. So just because I don't think, you know, we obviously know the conversation Dolan had on WFAN, be patient. There's a difference between being patient and totally starting over. I don't think they totally want to start over. Like, I don't think this is a team that's going to move on from everyone and then just build it back through draft picks. But you said this year, right? Like, so like maybe they'll get next year for like first for next year or whatever. But I do think they're going to try to put together something. Like, I don't see them totally folding and tanking on the year when in reality, I know we don't believe this team can do it. A 5-game winning streak puts them right back in. Like, it's just, but it's that kind of year. I know it's not what you want to hear. I know none of us think this team can do it right now, but if I'm a GM who's trying to save my job, you know, that's the way I got to think. It's like, I'm telling you, if we get 1 5-game stretch here, we're right. Like, that's just, you got to put yourself in their shoes, you know?
Have you seen that TikTok of that soccer guy that's not getting a haircut until his team wins five consecutive games?
I am not on soccer TikTok.
I'm not either. I'm surprised that I even get that. But this dude will not cut his hair until his team wins 5 games in a row, and I think it's been 2 years or something like that. I'd be willing to make that bet. 5 games in a row is.
Let's do it now. Let's do it now.
I wish you would do that.
No haircuts.
Your hair is going to be longer than the screen.
And Johnny was kind of alluding to it with, you know, Dolan says one thing, but we also know how the Rangers operate. Why Vinny Trocheck is so interesting because I think if he is someone that gets moved, it's a little bit of a signal of okay, it may not be a full tear down, a full rebuild, but there is something going on with a little bit of a reset if you give up a guy like Vinny Trocheck with term to get future assets. Where if you were to keep a guy like him and, God forbid, add a middle 6 forward at the deadline, like you're going for it, then it's okay. We are who the Rangers have kind of always been, going to kind of put Band-Aids on potential cuts. So that's why I'm really, really interested, not just for the return, because I've read things that because, like we're all saying, because of the type of player Vinny is and the term that he has, you can get something for him. Just the mentality of what it means for what this team sees in the present and how they're going to operate in the future, because I truly think if you get rid of him, there's at least some sort of minimal reset that's going on with his team. So, you know, we can say all the other names. He's the one. Even if you get rid of Panarin, it doesn't mean much other than we're probably not going to re-sign him. So I don't know how much of a reset that is. Vinny's the one, if you give up, that signals that.
Well, to me, it's just like he's the most attractive from other for other team standpoints. Like, you watch the 2024 playoff run back again, Vinny was probably the most important player on that team. Like, I know obviously Igor is probably number one, but like as far as skaters go, like Pierre Laviolette loved Vinny Trocheck for every reason. So did everyone else. Who didn't love Vinny Trocheck that year? Like, he played PK, PP, 6-on-5, 5-on-6, 4-on-4, 3-on-3. Like, he did everything that they asked him to do. And, I know some people have like totally turned a cold shoulder to Vinny Trocheck and like blame him for a lot of this and stuff. Like, I've heard a mixed review on him. I'm a guy who loves Vinny Trocheck. I know he's not playing his best right now, but he's at least showing emotion. And if that's the bar and that's how low the bar is, at least he's doing it, Granted, like the penalties last night weren't great, but
nothing's been great.
No one showed up. Yeah. So, but like Zook, the whole thing about Vinny, it's not like the Rangers need to trade Vinny Trocheck because that's the guy who's going to start the reset. It's just because that's like the best value that they could probably get in return for, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I feel that. I just feel like, although it is the best value, if they weren't looking to quote unquote reset or rebuild or a little bit of a pause, they'd probably hold on to him, just because I feel like everything you're saying, like everyone loves him. He is that player that if you're still continually trying to go for it, especially over the length of his contract, you'd have to get a lump sum to move on from him. That I think it's both sides of it. I 100% agree with you, and I've been saying it the last few episodes. He's the guy you're going to get the most for because of all the reasons above, plus what it means if you're willing to accept that massive deal. That, we've talked about Panarin on this show. We've talked about Schneider. We've talked about a bunch of other guys. I think what the Rangers do with Trocheck before the trade deadline is what could swing this team one way or the other, just in terms of mentality moving forward this season and the next 2 or 3 seasons, for all the above. What you get for him and what it means Dolan is probably thinking about this team right now.
I think there's something to be said too for Johnny, what you mentioned, right? The value of a center, especially every year at the 100%. Trade deadline, is the highest valued position outside of probably goaltender. And then you look at Vincent Trocheck, and there's got to be a GM that's going, yeah, I understand he might not be having his best year, but who on that team is? If he comes over here, it's going to be a much different player. And I think that's why, if you are looking to at least move a player, like you said, Johnny, his contract's movable. It's not going to cause any issues. You don't have to retain. It's under control, and he is a 2C, 3C on a very good playoff team. So that's got to be the number one option, right?
I would think so. Another team, I don't know what their prospects look like per se, but like the Edmonton Oilers are the perfect team too, right? Like, they have basically a 3-year deadline with Connor McDavid right now. And it's like, I don't know what the Rangers would get back for that trade if he were to go to Edmonton. I don't even know if he'd like necessarily want to go there or if that's on his list or not. But you look at the Oilers, they're if Vinny Trocheck's your third line center on Edmonton, it's pretty damn good.
Yeah, maybe you get McDavid back in that return, right?
Panarin,
Johnny, I know you I know you got to head out. One final question, yes or no answer. After the trade deadline, is Artemi Panarin part of this team?
No, definitely not.
Okay,
definitely not. Oh,
now he's thinking about it.
Well, okay, so I've been saying no the whole year. I was having a conversation with a current NHL player, not on the Rangers, just talking about the team, how they look, whatever. And he said, like, if they move on Panarin, like, you can't undervalue skill. Like, they need all the skill in the world that they can get. And they are struggling right now for skill with him. And it's not like it's easy to replace. So we think one way as fans, players and people in front offices think another way. And maybe just to keep this team afloat, if they're trying to stay afloat for 3 more years, you do keep them. Like, it's not what I would do or like what I would want to do as a fan, but I could see the thought process behind them wanting to do it. Like, do we really want to plummet this thing? Or can we find ways to just, he's still productive, but Yeah.
I tweeted out if you don't think they score now.
Yeah.
They do trade the Nerd, right?
Yeah, guys, I really try to be positive. Like I really do, but it is like I'm not a guy who's gonna pile on like our buddy Steven.
That's me.
Hey, you know what? I'm not telling you how to be like they're a fan. We need fans that are pissed. We need them. You need them. It's just not my style, but I'm not like, screw you for feeling that way. Like you're watching this team every night. People are paying for tickets to go. Like the craziest thing to me is like you could spend $120 to $150 to go to Madison Square Garden and you have a 20% chance of leaving happy.
You're almost at a 20% chance to see him score a goal at this point.
Yeah. Like it's been rough. And I do like, I last night I was sitting at MSG in the second period and I was like, get me out of here. And I didn't pay for the ticket. So I can't imagine how people were feeling that, brought their kids for the first time or, someone who was going to their first Ranger game at MSG last night, what they were feeling. Like, that's kind of where I'm at right now is like, fuck, man. Like that's tough. And they've crushed my soul a little bit. And I try to be an upbeat, happy guy. So it's been tough.
I had a buddy of mine who's a very positive guy who was at the game last night. And he, in our group chat, was like, I might toss my jersey onto the ice. I'm getting to that point. And he's been a guy that all season's been like, they just need to get a run. They just need to hit into a run. And, I think last night being there broke him. I think it just actually broke him.
So here's where the player part of me comes out too. It's like, if I'm feeling like that and I'm just watching, I cannot imagine putting my shin pads on every day. And it's funny. I used to say like, oh, the worst feeling in the world is putting on like wet shin pads, but these guys are in the NHL. They probably get their shin pads dried in 1 minute. But like going out there, trying to do your best and like knowing that you just, whatever you do, it's not going to work. Like that is the worst feeling in the world. Like every shift I went out there my senior year, I was like, what good am I going to do?
You're sitting there like, I just hope the puck doesn't hit me. I don't need to block a shot here.
What good am I going to do? Like, this is miserable. So it's
demoralizing,
man.
Yeah.
We lost 12-0 that year. And it was the worst.
Listen, there's still time.
Yeah.
There's still time.
I really hope
past them.
I really hope not.
Yeah. But thank you guys.
No, thank you for coming on, Johnny. We appreciate the insight and the chat as always.
Hopefully next time it's happier.
I hope so.
Right.
I really do hope so.
See you in 3 years. Bye.
All right. Well, that was Jonny Lazarus. We appreciate him hopping on and giving us some inside scoop. And he's right, man. I know we've talked about this kind of ad nauseum at this point. I know we're all sick and tired of talking about it, but yes, there is a mental side. We started this conversation on the mental side last year with Mika, and I know we were pretty prevalent on that. It's continued over this year. It's the whole entire team, but there's really something to be said for the fact that you could really confuse a lack of interest in playing with a lack of confidence that you're going to be able to succeed. And I think we're seeing that right now with the Rangers, but there's not a lot of optimism outside of the fact that we have a trade deadline coming up.
And it's funny that you mentioned Mika, right? Like we talked about Mika last year being sort of that guy that seemed to be, tail between his legs, kind of down in the dumps all season. He's probably been the best forward on the Rangers this season. Like he struggled to score 20 that last year. He's going to maybe touch 30 this year. If he hits a run, like obviously it's easier for him to hit a run than the team to hit a run. But if he hits a goal scoring run, kind of like he has recently, is it out of the question to say he could score 35, which I believe was one of my hot takes at the start of this year. So I don't want to pat myself on the back too early.
Close to 35, right? I think it was 35.
Like Mika is having like if we want to just, I know I'm getting dogged for being the pessimistic guy here, but it's funny. It's funny how many times I've played devil's advocate on the show, and it might just be the Twitter just becomes a dark place for me. Which is funny. If you see my tweets, you should really see what's being said in the group chats, because if you think it's negative, then it's like to the nth degree more. No, but like Mika sort of turns it into like a good season for him, right? Like he looks defeated after these games and all credit goes to him. Like he wears a letter. He's trotted out there every time they lose 4-3. They've lost another home game. They lose 10-0. Like he is the guy that is being put in front of the media, and he is the guy that is sort of front and center in all this. And, sometimes it's, Miller until he figures out he has no words to say, which is another story that we can get into. But I think a guy like Mika has really sort of embraced this. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but he's still playing well and producing despite the team being just dog shit.
Yeah, the team is awful. But to be honest, we can't say we didn't ask for this at times when they were middling, right? Like, if you're going to be bad, be bad. If you're going to be good. Don't be in the middle where the Rangers were for most of this season. Look, there's two sides of it. Obviously, I'm having fun with it. It sucks every night because we still watch all the games to tune into 7 o'clock. And we're humans also, so I go into these games now saying we have no chance. So, if we feel that, obviously the guys on the ice feel it, but it's, man, oh man, it's snowballing where bad has become really bad has become terrible. The skill isn't there. The makeup of the team isn't there mentally. And then, the style of not the style of the team, because I agree with what Johnny said, that Sullivan is getting possibly the most that anybody can get out of these guys, but the style of the individuals. I was talking to my wife's uncle that's a diehard Islanders fan, and we were going back and forth, and he was asking me what's going on with the Rangers. He sees the roster. It's a lot of the same guys. Why is this year so much worse than any other years? And we say it every single episode, it's the speed. And he goes, yeah, even at nights where the Islanders look like they're a little overwhelmed by more of a veteran team, a team that has structure, you still see the individual moments of the guys on the Islanders flying up and down the ice with the puck. The guys who, like Johnny was saying, when they have the puck on their stick, they're moving quicker sometimes than when they don't have the puck on the stick. So there's almost no positives with this team, especially now that Fox and Igor are out. Man, oh man, how stupid is everyone that was talking about Igor look now, right? Because you put in a goalie who was even playing well in his limited time before he got full-time minutes, and it's he's being left out to dry. It's how good is Igor Shesterkin and Adam Fox, and you sometimes don't realize that until they're gone, how good those two are. You can look at the hockey stat cards of Gavrikov when he's playing next to a guy like Schneider or somebody else. He's -2 or 3 every night. You put him next to Fox, that was the best tandem in hockey, when Fox was healthy. So with those two out, last night in an 8-4 game was almost a glimmer of hope, because with those two guys out, you go through a list of what you're looking for. You're looking for Gabe Perreault. That's it to play well. And we saw it last night. But we're getting to that point where you're tuning in and, for a normal team that had a normal amount of prospects and didn't throw away their future in prior years, there'd be 3, 4, or 5 guys maybe that you'd be excited for. It's, hey, when is 94 on the ice? Who's he playing with? And does he look like someone who could be a potential top 6 winger, moving forward? But that's why we're going to spend so much time on the trade deadline and the draft moving forward, because when it comes to the guys on this team we're actually worried about, there's not that many when talking about moving forward and building that future, besides if we're talking about them to move on from them. And that's the sad fact of where the Rangers are, but it's the moves that they made in recent past to go for it. Whether some were right or some were wrong, that's revisionist history. We have had a lot of success. We've also made a lot of moves that we probably shouldn't have made. And now we're kind of paying the price for that at this point, where we have not a lot of young guys in the pros, and our pipeline is, when Perreault's up, who's now our best prospect not in the NHL? Is he on Michigan? Is it Spence? This is a barren team right now when it comes to looking into the future.
So I held off on this stat, but I really wanted to bring this out here. So the Rangers are a -17 in the last 4 games that they've played. Yep. I went through and found
-17, point differential.
Yes, goal differential. They've been
outscored 27-10.
Okay. Yeah, a -17 goal differential over the last 4 games. Since the end of World War II, there have been six instances of a Rangers franchise having a 4-game stretch of being a -17 in the goal differential department. Those years include The 2019 New York Rangers that had a -17 over 4 games, they went 0-4-0. They gave up, I'm trying to find they gave up 22 goals, so they scored, they didn't even give up as many goals. That was the last, oh no, it wasn't, that was 2009. Then we have to go all the way back to 1975, where they were a -17 over a 4-game stretch. Oddly enough, they won one of those games. They were 1-3-0 in that stretch. Then 1960, they were a -19, 0-4. 1949, a -17. 1949, -17. And then you get into World War II. So this is when we talk about the Rangers doing things that we have never seen before, they are doing it on quite possibly a nightly basis. Like, if we go back to just the last couple of games, right? Like, they win the Winter Classic. We think they're going to have this good bounce back. They go and I don't even remember what the first game outside of the Winter Classic was. Was it the Utah game?
I got the
It was
schedule
Utah.
right here.
I think it was Utah or
Utah
Buffalo.
game, they lost in overtime.
It was the Utah game. So they have this like really good like camaraderie win on national television outdoors. We're saying never play them indoors ever again. They come back. Shesterkin gets hurt. Fox gets hurt. Immediately the vibes are gone. And then you give up 10 goals. You give up 10 goals. I'm not even mentioning the fact that in the game against Buffalo, by the way, you had a chance in the final 3 minutes of that game to add on the power play, tie the game, have this third period comeback on home ice, tie the game, and it doesn't even take 15 seconds for you to give up a shorthanded goal to Mattias Samuelsson, who, God bless him, I saw him score a goal last night. Like, he apparently is this offensive juggernaut now. He set a career high in goals, but you're not talking about, Quinn Hughes or Cale Makar or any of these like elite offensive defensemen. But Mattias Samuelsson's a great defensive defenseman. He should not be shooting short side and beating your goaltender. I know Lafreniere got dogged on for that, and I don't want to dog on Quick as much as people might. Like, I get he's 40 years old, like he's not meant to be starting. Make a save. Like, make a save there. That then spirals into you losing 10-2 on national television to the Boston fucking Bruins, who are 2 points ahead of you in the standings. Like, it's not like you're playing the 80-something Oilers or the 80-something Islanders. It's the Boston Bruins, who either are going 8-1 or are going 0-8. Like, the most outside of your team, who isn't not just inconsistent, they suck, but the most inconsistent team in the National Hockey League, you let them hang 10. And that could be excused. And in my mind, giving up 10 goals could be excused if your captain didn't then go out and say, we got to start the game quick. We're going to start the game quick. You're going to like how we start the game quick in their next game. And he takes a penalty 14 seconds into the first period. And sure, they started the game fine. They scored 2 goals. It was the best period we've seen them play in a long time. Immediately to do exactly what we've seen them do over this stretch of period where they just don't have it. Whether they don't care, whether they have no confidence. If you have a 2-0 lead, you shouldn't lose confidence the first time you give up a goal. But to then basically shut it down after the first period, you give up that first goal, and then it's gone. And then I think they had 11 shots in the first period. I think they had 11 for the next 2 periods combined. Like, they never had a chance to come back in that game. I don't even remember who they fucking played. I just know that it was shit. Seattle. And then
they dogged us on Twitter after. Pictures of Taco and Lindgren.
And rightfully so. We're getting dunked on by every franchise that comes into this fucking building and beats the ever-living dog shit out of the team and our fucking moral. I can't deal with this anymore. Like, I watched them like a psychopath. And granted, I didn't watch yesterday. Thank God. I would have went nuts. But then on top of that, you then have this game against Ottawa, who might be cheating on their wives. None of us know if they're actually cheating on their wives, but their owner seems to think they might be cheating on their wives, so they have to put out this statement to then all of a sudden on home ice roll over immediately and give up 4 in the first period and give up 6 before you have any sort of response. And thank God for Gabe Perreault. Like, he hasn't had a great couple games recently. Thank God for Gabe Perreault, that the fact that I can look at that game and say him and Noah Laba are the reason I'm watching the game. Because it's criminally insane to be sitting here and watching this team and thinking anything other than they're going to get the fucking doors blown off of them tonight, because they have no care. They're not going to say they have no care. They have no confidence and no skill. And that's dangerous. If you have no confidence and no skill, you're done. Like, you are absolutely done. And to be a professional athlete, and the word that they keep using is fragile. If you're a professional athlete and your mindset is that fragile that once you go down 1, or even if you're up 2 goals, you give up a goal, and then all of a sudden the glass breaks. That can't happen from a National Hockey League team. That can't happen from a professional athlete playing hockey, playing football, playing baseball, playing lacrosse, playing fucking Quidditch for all I care. You have to have some spine to play professional sports. And it sounds like there's not a soul on this roster that has a fucking spine to go with it. And it's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed to be a Rangers fan right now. I'm embarrassed to wear a New York Rangers anything, going out of my house to do anything right now. I'm about to fly across the goddamn country to watch them play in LA and Anaheim. What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to expect them to be competitive and win? No. The Ducks suck. The Ducks have lost 9 of their last 10.
You're supposed to.
I feel bad for you. These 10 p.m. West Coast games are a great reprieve because I can get away and justify in my head, okay, I'm going to go to sleep and I'm not going to watch those. But you're going out to watch them, and just everything you're saying, Steve.
In my defense, it'll be 80 degrees the 3 days that I'm there, and the sun's going to be out, so I can't necessarily complain.
Yeah.
It's 4 below right now in Rochester, and it snowed 6 inches today, so I can't fully complain, but having to watch them is going to suck.
That's fair. I just want to bring up this comment because it kind of piggybacked what Steve is talking about the fragile, soft, weak team that Drury built. Weren't we sold that, okay, this team is going to give up a little bit on the skill side because we're going to have a team that's physical, a team that's mentally strong, a team that does all the other things that makes up for the fact that they're not the most skilled team. And it's just the opposite. We gave up skill to get guys that are completely mentally weak. And like you're saying, this is a team right now that literally to win a game needs everything to go their way or else they're going to fold. And as we know, over 60 minutes in a professional sport, not everything's going to go your way.
No.
So it's not only, they give up a goal early, they give up 2 goals early and they fold. It's they go up 2-0 and they commit a penalty, or God forbid, give up a goal like they did against Seattle. And you just know the house of cards is absolutely going to fall. And I don't know which one it is, and I don't know which one they'd rather like to hear less, because they're either the worst hockey team ever put together or the most mentally weak group of guys ever made up on a professional sports team. I don't know which one it is. I don't know which one they want to hear, but you say they don't care. You say you don't want to say they don't care, Steven, because that's the worst thing you can say about a team. I don't think they do, because I honestly don't think they can't be this bad. Maybe I'm that stupid, but it's almost like they can't be this bad. And if I don't think they're 10-2 bad, 4-2 bad, 8-4 bad, they clearly don't care. And these guys are gliding around the ice. These guys know they're smart. What we're talking about, they don't live in a bubble. They also know the same thing. They know they're the worst team in the East. They know they're free falling. They know they have games in hand that people are going to pass them by. They know that, Panarin's on the trade block. They know that people are talking about Vinny Trocheck. They know Shesterkin isn't there to bail them out. They know that Adam Fox isn't there basically to control the whole game when he's on the ice. It's just a lost group of puppies that you brought in a guy like JT Miller for when moments like that, he was the guy you look to, and he's at a loss for words. The only words he has is to tell us he's at a loss for words.
Yeah, but
we gave up skill and we gave up future assets for that guy. It's a nightmare right now.
I'm going to close my rant. I'm going to close my rant by saying this. I was at the Sabres game last night, and my buddy that is now plays with Buffalo, he's listed as 5'9". He's listed at 5'9" as a defenseman. I watched him get jumped by Nicolas Deslauriers and Garnet Hathaway going to the net last night as a defenseman. He had no stick. His stick got knocked out of his hands. He still drove the net and got just abused by Nicolas Deslauriers and Garnet Hathaway. What Ranger is going to sit there and try and get into the corner? And we could say this because they're going to play the Flyers the next game that they play. By the way, the Flyers suck. The Flyers are awful too.
We can't say that about any other team. Yeah,
the Flyers have no skill, no speed. They're bad.
They're gonna look fast as hell against us.
I watched Travis Konechny. I watched Travis Konechny every time like a play didn't go their way, just like throw his hands up and whine and bitch and complain. I couldn't stand watching the Flyers last night. Like, it was brutal. And the Sabres didn't necessarily play well, but they look fast, they look good, they look young, they look hungry, they look aggressive. But yeah, no, I can't get on board with the Flyers. Sorry about that.
No. You let me know when you're done, because I want to pile on. But I
yeah,
don't have the energy to rant.
My point is there's a National Hockey League player that stands at 5'9" that will a defenseman, by the way, that will crash the net with Delorier and Garnet Hathaway standing there, and there's not a soul on this soulless hockey club that will do that.
Yeah, listen, I don't have the energy to rant. I've done enough of my screaming and yelling and being upset. So I was watching the game last night, and I immediately started to think about what used to be, right? And, Johnny, when he was on the show, talked about Trocheck in 24. I think he led the Rangers in points in that playoff run. There was a lot that started going through my head. So I'm just going to read this quote to you. I'm going to do a little bit of a comparison, and then I'll let you guys go nuts and close out the show, because if anything, I just want to pile on while you guys are riled up. So after the Tampa Bay Lightning eliminated the New York Rangers in the 2022,
I know where you're going with this, you son of a bitch. I swear to God.
After the Tampa Bay Lightning eliminated the New York Rangers in the 2022 Eastern Conference Final, their head coach, John Cooper, said this: when you have the core that they have, the guys up front, and some of the defensemen that they have, and then you have the goaltender in Igor Shesterkin, it's a pretty good recipe to have. Led by what I consider one of the greatest coaches in the world in Gerard Gallant, and led by this entire group of team, I told Gerard that someday, hopefully when I'm not still coaching, he's going to be up here in my seat. Now, since that quote, John Cooper's still the head coach of the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Lightning have 11 players from that team still on their active roster. The Rangers, on the other hand, are on their second coach since Gerard Gallant. It was Gallant, Laviolette, now Sullivan. They only have 8 players that they are returning from that team just 4 years ago. The Lightning are currently first in the Atlantic Division at 29-13-3. The Rangers are 20-22-6, last in the Eastern Conference. Okay, so 4 years have passed since John Cooper gave them their flowers, and in those 4 years, the Rangers GM has completely obliterated this team. He has returned only 8 players, and of those 8 players, I think there is probably not a single one that a current fan on X and any social media platform hasn't had a gripe with at some point. And in addition to that,
Mika's Banajed.
I think we had some gripes of them last year, even though you were the least gripey of the group. But
Believe it or not,
I was looking at that, and I remembered it because I remember thinking at the time, was Gallant the problem? Probably not, but I understood why they made that change. But to give Drury the opportunity, and I know we've said this on the show before, to make a third change made no sense. And to have another coach who I think by all measures and most hockey people would agree is probably one of the best head coaches in the NHL at this current juncture, right? Have him sing the praises for the way that team was constructed. And if you go back to that playoff run, you remember it was the Vetranos, the Cops, it was the pieces that they added to complement their guys. And immediately, just 1 year after that, instead of adding pieces, they went out and they tried to get the flashy names in Kane and Tarasenko, and they lost in the first round. Then they kind of corrected that a little bit, and they were able to get back to the Eastern Conference Final. And since that point, this team has just not felt the same. And every single thing that I could point to leads back to the general manager. It wasn't the players that put a press release out there saying, guys, we're up for sale, guys that were so valuable to the core and the group of this team. That, by the way, the one thing I'll say is if you look on social media, everybody wanted Barclay Goodrow gone, right? I think that was a consensus. The contract's bad. You're paying too much for fourth liner. Not one person here is in that locker room. If the general manager of the hockey team does not know how integral a player is to the group that he has established and cannot oversee the noise from fans on social media and is just trading this guy and doesn't care about what might happen after the fact, that guy should not be in charge of a hockey team. First of all, that guy shouldn't even be in charge of a corner store deli on 8th Avenue. Okay, there's something to be said for statistics, for skill, for speed, all the components that make up a good hockey team. And then there's something to be said for the humanity side of it. And if Barclay Goodrow was that beloved in the locker room, where at $3.5 million on the fourth line, you have to eat a little bit more than you want to pay just to have this team continue to play the way they wanted to play, then you have to realize that as the general manager, and you have to know a lot better than all millions of fans that you have on social media clamoring away at you. So I just wanted to bring that up because since 2022, one team has continued to remain at their trajectory in large part because of their general manager and head coach, and one team has fallen off drastically from that trajectory in large part because of their general manager and their lack of consistency at head coach. Now you could look at this roster and say, yeah, the players are to blame too, and I agree with you in some regards, but all of this stemmed, and I think we kind of lose this in the minutia of what's going on right now, all of this stemmed from a single incident by the general manager. And the fact that he continues to get a vote of confidence from the owner tells you everything that you need to know about this organization, and is exactly why I don't have the energy to rant. I don't have the energy to really do mock trades, mock drafts, because I don't have any belief that the right decisions are going to be made until this guy is out of that seat. So that's what I know. We have about 5.5 minutes left. If you want to go longer, go for it. But that's really all I have to say on this episode. It was great talking to Johnny. I cannot talk about how bad this team is anymore. I cannot talk about what trades they should make because I don't think any of them are really going to come to fruition. All I can talk about is what I've seen, and all I've seen is an inept GM sitting in that chair. That seat is nowhere near as hot as it should be.
No, one of these days the sun's going to explode and none of this is going to matter. So that's all.
And I really hope that's by January 16th.
No, I like that you brought that up, Brendan, because I like that you brought up the Lightning, not the fact that the sun's going to explode. I like that you brought up the Lightning.
I'm fine with that.
Because we have, and what you're saying about the GMs, we have proof in the pudding. Look at what the Lightning said about Darren Radish, who's 100x the player that Will Borgen was, and look what the Rangers did with Will Borgen.
Listen,
that's just
listen.
That's just how teams handle themselves.
Listen. I think this is like the Sam Darnold effect with the Jets, where the people said how the Jets let go of Sam Darnold, not knowing that 5 other teams also let go of Sam Darnold before he turned good. I know Darren Radish, it's not necessarily the case with him, but he's what, 30, 29?
He was on that 22
No, but
roster.
what I'm saying is if Darren Radish signed with the Rangers this year and was an unrestricted free agent and was putting up these numbers,
I get that.
Drury
He
would
wasn't.
have already given him a 10-year, $9 million contract.
But Darren Radish was never going to survive in the Rangers organization because they don't have the front office or at that point the coaching
Even
to
if
figure him out.
Drury would have done it. Will Borgen played 5 games.
I think what you're missing, Zook, is that Darren Radish was a Ranger. But before
that's
the
fair.
tenure.
That's fair.
I agree with what you're saying though.
Yeah.
There's something. I mean, there wasn't anybody that was more of a proponent against that and the Vakanainen deal than I was.
I was for Borgen at the
opponent,
time.
I should say.
Yeah,
there was. Borgen, when he came to the Rangers, did a solid job. I think the first 10 games he did a solid job, but there was zero reason to give him that deal. It could have waited to the offseason. This is not a guy like Artemi Panarin that's going to have offers elsewhere where you're trying to lock up, right? It's not an Adam Fox. It's not a Gavrikov where you got to make that offer. We're talking about Will Borgen, a guy that was traded to you for Capo Caco, who Drury could not wait to get rid of. You could have waited till the offseason and actually had a negotiation. And on top of the $4.1 million, he gave him a no trade clause.
Yep.
So it's moronic. If we had the time, and if I had a whiteboard behind me like you do behind you, Zook, I would have written out every single move that he's made in a column that says bad on top in capital letters, and in a much smaller column I would have wrote good. And off the top of my head, there aren't many good moves that I could put on there outside of that 2022 run where he added Vetrano and Kopp. I really cannot think of anything. Gavrikov was a good signing. I'll give him his flowers there. But I think that anybody sitting in the seat knew that Gavrikov was the Rangers' target last year in the offseason. It didn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. It's painful. It's very painful to see, companies that are traded publicly on the stock exchange, if their CEO is bad, they lose some value in the market. The Rangers don't lose value in the market because they're the New York Rangers. Free agents will still come here. But when your own team is kind of laying an egg every single night, because I have a really strong belief that that's because they don't want to play for the guy that's running the team.
Yeah, no? I 100% believe that. I think I get some shit.
Our salary. So
I get some
frozen.
Shit.
No,
you're good. I get some shit for saying that guys don't want to play for the general manager. I truly believe it. Like if you think about it as as just yourself doing whatever job that you do at home. If you hate your boss, if you despise your boss, if you know that your boss is not out there doing what he can or she can to do what's right for you or what's right for your company or what's right for, the people that are invested in the company, the guys and girls that show up are not going to show up and give their best effort because they hate that person. But if you have a boss or whatever that will sit there and they'll listen to you and they'll not, I don't want to say bend the knee, but they're gonna do what's right for you and what's right for the company and what's right for the people, then all of a sudden you have a much healthier work environment and more stuff gets done more productively. I know it doesn't necessarily make the most sense, but at the end of the day, if you hate your boss, you're not necessarily going to go die for him.
No, we're human beings. We're a product of our environment.
Yeah. So, Zook, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No, that was my fault because I was lagging. But and I do it all the time. There's like a million different things we can say about this team, and I'm doing it again when I'm bringing up the salaries. I'm not even looking at the numbers. Just look at the names. The team isn't good. There's a million different things you can say. You could say talent. You could say want. You could say passion. You can say mentality. The team's just not great. This list obviously doesn't include Fox and Igor, so take it with a grain of salt. That's if you scroll down. But if on your active roster, Alexei Lafreniere is your 4th highest paid player, Will Borgen is your 7th highest paid player, even if this team wanted it, I don't know how good they would be, to be honest. And again, it all goes back to Drury. Drury made this team.
I'd rather that though. I'd rather a team be bad and care than at least
100%.
It's noticeable. It's noticeable. There's a reason Rangers fans love Peter Proof.
If you stink this bad, if you stink this bad, this team could care more than any other team in the league. At the end of the day, they're still not that good. But one exercise we should do is we should go through the contracts one day, because eventually we're going to run out of, how many times each week can we just talk about how bad Chris Drury is? We don't know it at this point. And see how much dead weight there is. We know what the cap is. We know at this point the Rangers are technically $1 million $1 million over the cap because they spent too much money. And just add up. If we add up Euro's contract with Will Borgen's contract, with how much you think he overpaid this person, and see how much dead space is truly on this team, I think we would be shocked. We would honestly be shocked. And like Brendan was saying, if you had a whiteboard, you can go back to years in the past and do that same thing. And it's the way Chris Drury has built these teams has, no matter who the coach is, you're almost playing with a hand tied behind your back, because you can have the want, you can have the passion, you can have the structure, which I don't think to a point we agree that this team has with Sullivan. Some of these guys that we're just putting on the ice, Brandon Schneider getting first pair of minutes next to Gavrikov. We can do a whole episode on how bad Schneider is, but he's the tank commander.
He's up there. I do want to leave you guys with one final thought, quick. I put these lines together. These are the lines that I want to see every night on the ice until the trade deadline, and I named each line because I had downtime during the game last night.
Dick, ass, and piss line.
It was close. Those were up there. Those were the bronze medalists, actually. So the first line I have is JT Miller, Mika Zibanejad, and Gabe Perreault, and I labeled that line the returning line because I don't see any way in which those 3 guys are not back on this roster next year. The next line I have is Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere, kind of reuniting the trio. And I have that titled the showcase line because in my mind, all 3 of those guys should be in talks come this trade deadline as people that are looking to move on. And they were all most productive in their years as a Ranger together. So you might as well try to put their best foot forward. And then I have the third line is the youth line, right? So I have Cooley, Laba, and Othman playing together. Put a little bit of snarl, try to get these guys, see what they have, give them some ice time. The fourth line I didn't even bother with because it's irrelevant. But these 3 lines and the way they're structured, I think Gabe Perreault gets the most minutes that he could possibly get. I would even put him on power play 1 because at this point it doesn't matter, especially without Fox. Just try and get this kid as much confidence as you can. And then that second line with Artemi Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere, try to get these guys going well. And even if you're not winning games, if those guys are playing more productive hockey, all it does is enhance their trade value. And I think that they got to that a little bit after the first period last night. They scored 4 goals after that point, and in large part because all of a sudden these guys, kind of woke up a little bit, but they also were playing in different scenarios and different settings. but I think you can get a lot more out of your team by doing that, and you can get a lot more value come the deadline. Again, caveat, if you're willing to make the right trades if you do that.
Yeah, if I have to talk about this team for another minute tonight, I'm going to lose my mind. So I think that's where we're going to call it. But either way, those lineups sound great. That's a 8-2 loss again on Saturday to the Philadelphia Flyers.
Oh, man. That's one team that I do not like. There's 2 teams in the league that I don't want to lose 8-2 to. 3 teams: Islanders, Devils, Flyers. Anybody else?
Everybody. I just want to keep losing 8-2.
I know you're a big tank guy right now. I think we all are. There's nothing else.
Yeah.
No, I think there's nobody more vocal though than Zook. He's about
every time the Rangers give him a goal, he's throwing the white towel.
Keep losing 8-2, because then 2 things are going to happen. One is going to be we're going to do the right thing, which I think there's a less chance that happens, and we trade everyone we need to trade. Or for the first time, even though he's been awful in the past, it's blatantly clear that Chris Drury has no idea what he's doing. And maybe Dolan will get so pissed at that point that he'll actually make a change. So one way or the other, whether we trade anyone or don't, just keep losing because it's going to shine a light regardless. And James Dolan, one thing he won't do is he doesn't like to put up with being an embarrassment. And he'll make a quick change if it needs to be. So just because he said something on WFAN, 2 weeks ago, if this team keeps losing 8-2, and my friends that don't even follow hockey are getting notifications that we're giving up 10 goals, at some point he's not going to stand for that.
You would think, but we'll see. Rangers' next game is Saturday in Philly. After that, like Steven said, they're going on a little West Coast swing to Anaheim, Los Angeles, and San Jose. And then they end that on Monday the 26th. They meet Boston again. I wonder how many goals they'll give up in that one. So if you are a Rangers fan like we are, I know I'll be tuning in, maybe not to the West Coast games, but I don't know what we're watching for at this point. I don't want to see a team get embarrassed 10-2, but I also don't necessarily want to see them squeak out some wins here and there when we're all kind of rooting for the same thing.
Maybe Gabe Perreault will keep scoring 2 goals a game.
Maybe. If Gabe Perreault scores 2 goals a game, they start losing 3 or 4-2. It's a little bit easier of a pill to swallow, and we'll see what happens. But it's been arguably the worst and ugliest week of Rangers hockey that I can remember, at least in my fandom. I was very young during the early 2000s years. I know I saw a lot of older Rangers fans talk about that. But we'll see, man. It can't really get uglier than what we've seen this week. It could stay the same, but it can't get uglier.
You would think. I thought 10 goals was rock bottom, but what did I say earlier? You can't put lipstick on this pig. This is about as ugly as it's going to get.
Yeah, you can't. We're in a Black Mirror episode right now.
Keep fattening it up and take it to the slaughter, baby. 8-2, 9-2, 10-2. Keep it going.
Whatever Bob McKenzie has is his 15th overall, 15th overall ranked prospect. The Rangers can get the first pick. That's who they're taking.
Then we'll trade him in 4 years for a journeyman defenseman.
Yep.
All right, boys.
Schmil Schmorgan.
I'd like to say it was fun, but it wasn't.
It was a fun episode. We had fun. We got 1,400 people watching right now. We appreciate all you angry Rangers fans just like us. And, we'll be back next week to do the same thing all over again. So if you like this one, come back next Thursday.
Peace.